Welcome to this short session on recruitment. In this session, we'll look at all the steps involved in the recruitment process. We'll start off with the business case to recruit, followed by having a look at the approval process. We'll also consider the job descriptions and look at what happens after sign-off. There'll be some instructions on how to access information on Kronos and consideration given to managing timescales before we finish the session by looking at the final steps. There are some additional questions that you'll need to answer, the first being, why do you need this role? The second question asks you to consider whether you need a permanent resource or a fixed-term resource, and this leads on to the third question asking you to detail the duration of the contract if it is fixed term and for you to state the reasons why. The fourth question gets you to consider the improvements that this role will bring to your business area and to QB. If you have requested extra budget or an extra salary for the role, question 5 asks you, how do you justify the extra budget? Question 6 asks you, which financial savings will this role bring to QB? And the final question asks you, what will happen if the role doesn't get approval? The business case is an essential document to help you to address change and consider all opportunities. It provides guidance and support for the decision-making process. There are some additional questions that you'll need to answer. The first being, why do you need this role? The second question asks you to consider whether you need a permanent resource or a fixed-term resource, and this leads on to the third question asking you to detail the duration of the contract if it is fixed term and for you to state the reasons why. The fourth question gets you to consider the improvements that this role will bring to your business area and to QB. If you have requested extra budget or an extra salary for the role, question 5 asks you, how do you justify the extra budget? Question 6 asks you, which financial savings will this role bring to QB? And the final question asks you, what will happen if the role doesn't get approval? The business case is an essential document to help you to address change and consider all opportunities. It provides guidance and support for the decision-making process. The first stage in the approval process is to submit the completed business case to the relevant HRBP for your area. They will check for completeness and contact you if any further information is required. The next step is a review by Finance before a final review by Warren and Enzo. At this stage, your business case will either be approved or denied. Remember, if you need to raise the salary either due to market interest or for any other reason, this must be made clear in your business case. If your business case is met with approval, these are the steps that will happen during sign-off. On receiving approval, your business partner will need the job description, including the salary that's been agreed for that role. The HR recruiting officer will inform the hiring manager when the position has been signed off, and the role will be uploaded onto Kronos immediately. They will then create a visual and an advert from the job description that you have provided. This then goes on to LinkedIn and is placed with the recruitment agencies. The applicants will apply through the QB Careers website, and this will store their application on Kronos. As the hiring manager, you'll both want to and need to access the information that's been submitted on Kronos. To do this, go to Kronos and access the burger menu in the top left-hand corner of the screen. Click on the burger menu and select Recruitment. On this new page, scroll down to Requisitions and click on the pen icon to open the job requisitions. The next stage is to click on Applications and view the candidates. There are two boxes. The first box is used to select Reject or Interview, and the second box is to view the CV. When you have completed these stages, you should email the recruiting officer to confirm this process has been followed. The recruiting officer will then view Kronos and start to arrange the interviews. The next step is to consider what happens at the interview stage so that you can have an understanding to be able to better manage your time. You will need to liaise with the recruiting officer providing suitable dates and times for the interview, and then the recruiting officer will book the time and date of the interview with the candidate, and they'll then send the CV to you and book the event in your diary. They'll then contact the candidate by email to confirm the time, the date, and the interviewing manager. 2 days prior to the interview, the recruiting officer sends the candidate a reminder email. Please be aware to keep to a tight schedule to ensure candidates can be interviewed promptly, and second interviews can be arranged in a timely manner. Delaying the process may mean good candidates find roles elsewhere. If an offer is to be made, HR will need to be present during one of the interviews. It is suitable if HR were present at the first interview and you subsequently make an offer. If HR were not present at the first interview, they do need to be present at the second interview stage. During this time, when the candidates are invited to interview, they are also sent the company induction presentation, which provides them with some background to the company information. Following the interview, feedback should be emailed to the recruiting officer in HR. If successful, HR will make the offer. If accepted, they will gain confirmation from the HRBP and put the job offer in writing, including salary, car allowance and start date, etc. At this stage, HR will remove the vacancy from Kronos, LinkedIn and Hiring Monitor to close the vacancy. They'll also remove it from any recruitment agencies that they've been working with. If unsuccessful, HR will email the candidate with feedback. In effect, HR manages everything after the offer has been accepted and emails and liaises with the hiring manager. The interview is an opportunity to sell the company to potential candidates and assess each candidate's suitability for the position. By ensuring the basics are well covered, the interview process will yield greater results. So here are some tips that will need to be considered. The location, the interviewers, the timescales, the preparation, the introduction section, questions, candidate questions, closing the interview, and the review stage. We'll start with location. Many recruiters often forget the importance of location when interviewing. The location is a reflection of the importance of the position, the professionalism of the company, and the professionalism of its staff. Interviews should take place somewhere quiet, clean, and confidential. The interview is a chance for you to sell the company and position to a candidate, and for the candidate to interview you. Hiring the wrong person is not only costly, but could also harm the company's reputation. The next consideration are the interviewers. It's advisable to have 2 people interviewing wherever possible. The interviewers will need to be clear on the type of person being sought and the role that they will play within the company. The next consideration are timescales. Many candidates often get very nervous and anxious when attending interviews, and consequently they don't interview very well. It's important to set time limits on interviews to ensure that candidates are not kept waiting. The object is to hire the best person for the job, not the best interviewee on the day. Help to keep candidates relaxed and focused by sticking to your original timescales. The next tip to consider is the preparation stage. Before commencing the interviews, re-examine all the criteria required by the applicants and consider their priority ranking. For example, in the case of IT and technical interviews, it's unlikely that communication skills will be considered the same degree of importance as technical skills. It's important to ask all the applicants the same basic questions. By asking standardised questions, you'll be able to gather comparable data for review. Without this, it's likely that your decision will be skewed by personal likes and dislikes of a candidate. The questions you choose should be based on the job description to help focus on the relevant criteria. Ensure that you have the applicant's CV to hand. Not only will they be useful for reference, but they'll also demonstrate to the candidate that you are fully prepared. The next tip to consider is the introduction. Structure is crucial for interview success. Begin each interview with an informal chat. This will help to break the ice and will help to shake any unwanted nerves from the candidate. Introduce any of the other interviewers and explain what format the interview will take and how long it's likely to last. The introductory phase of the interview should be about the company, its products and services, recent successes, reasons for hiring, and ideal candidate requirements. The interview will naturally evolve from here. The next tip relates to the questions. The interview questions need to give you a clear indication of not only the candidate's technical abilities, but also their personality. The aim of the question should be to answer a simple question. Will this person fit into the business from a work and personality point of view and help to increase company profits? Begin your questioning with open-ended questions, such as, "Tell me about yourself." Using this information, you will then be able to use more specific questions to obtain answers to the questions you need answering. Expressions such as "explain to me" or "give me an example" will often receive more detailed answers than "do you do this" or "can you do this?" Vary the conversation so that the interview does not lose its flow or become too one-sided. Candidate body language also sends signals of interest. Eye contact, head tilting and nodding are positive signs of enthusiasm. Folded arms and poor eye contact signals a lack of interest. Whilst conducting the interview, it's important to give yourself time to write a sufficient amount of notes regarding the candidate. Without these notes, it will be hard to review the results of the interview at a later stage. Pauses will give you a chance to write your notes and will also give the candidate a chance to reflect on their responses and think of any questions of their own. The candidate will also have questions. An interview is not a one-way exchange. The interview is a time for the company to interview a candidate and for a candidate to interview the company. Remember, finding the right job is not easy and accepting it is even harder. All candidates should have some questions to ask, whether it be about training, career opportunities or company culture. No matter how good you may be at interviewing, it's unlikely that you would have covered every aspect of the job and company. A good candidate will invariably stand out from the crowd at this stage of the interview. The final tip to consider is closing the interview. An informal chat often helps to end on a friendly note. Make sure that you've covered all of your points and the candidate has covered theirs. Your closing actions will have an impression on the candidate, and it's important to make sure that they reflect well on both you and the company. If you have any queries related to the recruitment process, you can contact the HR department. Thanks for watching this session on recruitment.